Hi, I'm Rodi Srivastava,
I'm Anuradha Nagraj.
and this is The Migration Story.
कसा खेकडा हे बघा हे 400 रुपये किलो तुम्हाला भेटेल.
मावशी कसे आहे 600 एक पीस.
Mumbai's fish supply chain is undergoing changes. Whether your favorite fish is being delivered to you at your doorstep by
Delicious fresh, delicious
Swiggy,
fresh.
Get it in 10 minutes on Swiggy Instamart.
or a fish vendor, or even if you're buying it from your neighborhood fish market, the fisherman venturing into the sea, in most likelihood, is a migrant worker. Traditionally, Mumbai's Koli community entirely handled Mumbai's fishing business, but migrants are now an integral part of the food chain of fishes from the sea to your plate. They constitute 70% of the fishing trade in Mumbai today, with a large number of laborers or khalashis involved in either fishing on the boats in deep sea or vending it at your markets or to your homes. The allied sectors like wholesale fish trade, exports, logistics, ice trade, etc., are completely dominated by non fishing migrant communities. But how do the traditional fishermen from the Koli community view this change in the demographics of Mumbai's fishing business? To understand the changing nature of fishing business, I, Hepzi Anthony, an independent journalist from Mumbai, spoke to Devendra Tandel, president of the Akhil Maharashtra Machimaar Kriti Samiti. Devendra, can you please share about what is the role that migrants play in the fishing sector in Maharashtra?
Basically, the fishing industry is seeing drastic change in the practicing ways of although the demographic structure has been changing since 1990s. Till 1990s, major people involved in fishing industries were from fish Koli communities, traditional fishermen. Subsequently, with the advent of education being taking front seat in the Koli community, a lot of youngsters from 2000 onwards started migrating or started working in the white collar jobs. So from that perspective, the requirement of fishing personnel in this particular industry drastically went down. Subsequently, people from Dahanu Taluka, Dahanu district, which is predominantly an Adivasi district. So from that community, people started hiring them on the fishing vessels into this particular industry. Subsequently, with the advent and the MIDCs getting formed at a lot of locations like Palghar, even in Raigad. So a lot of this Dhanu community people also started changing their jobs and started working in these industries into blue collar jobs. So basically, again, there was a need for manpower in this industry. And then came a drastic change wherein people from North India who have never just even, seen an ocean in their lives as a child are now practicing this trade along with fishing community who are still predominantly are owning the boats. So this demographic change has been a drastic one with a lot of thought process, and the way of fishing has changed over the period of years. So if we pinpoint on a particular changes that has occurred, is that traditional fishermen are predominantly connected with the sea, and they have that way of fishing wherein they believe in sustainable fishing. That is, today if they will ensure that the catch is an ongoing process. It's not like today I've caught everything from the sea, tomorrow I have nothing. So the mindset of a traditional fisherman is always sustainable fishing, whereas the new people who are joining in this particular industry, their objective or their mindset is only earning. So I have even coined the word churning from the seas. They are more concerned about revenue. They are least bothered about sustainability. Obviously, because they didn't have that growing up, where they're connected with the sea. So this factor is affecting future of the industry on a larger scale, because fish stocks have started depleting since 1990s. If you go by the lot of surveys that has been conducted by CMFRI, an institute governed by Government of India, they have issued a lot of documentaries and docus wherein fish stocks have gone down on a larger scale, and they have already highlighted to the ministry and the government that drastic steps needs to be taken to control this declining in fish.
लाइक जो पहला फिशिंग था, जब भी नेट कम थे, फिश ज़्यादा था. अभी इतना नेट डाल के भी पानी में मतलब 40 या 50 फिशिंग नेट डाल के पानी में ओनली 2 या 3 पम्फ्रेट्स।
और पहले कितना आता था?
पहले लाइक 25, कभी कभी 1 ऐसा। हमारे में एक ड्रम रहता है, वो पूरा टब भर के आता
तो ये तो ऑलमोस्ट 85-90% ड्रॉप है।
यस।
The composition of fishing industry has changed immensely because of the influx of migrants from North India, especially from Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. At the same time, the middlemen in this particular industry has been predominantly from interior Maharashtra, mostly from Pune and Satara. So this is a cosmopolitan industry basically. Not a single religion dominates or not a single community dominates this industry.
What draws migrants to Mumbai's fishing sector? Is it better wages or is it other factors?
Basically, fish is always being termed as a white gold. This commodity, since the fish are getting declined and the demand is immense, that's why the cost of the any particular fish is on a high. I mean, if you know visit any fish market now, especially in the second half of the season, that is during December onwards till May, the cost would be exorbitant.
टाइगर कैसा?
So all these factors attract people to come into this business. Also, if you are starting as a marketing person in this particular industry, that is, fish sale business, the investment is only related to the purchase of the fish. Normally, or predominantly, fisherwomen are, the face of the marketing in the fishing industry. There are around 108 fish markets in Mumbai, and more than 35,000 fisherwomen are part of this 108 markets. But what change that these migrants have done is that fisherwoman doesn't go door to door. Whereas these migrants, they visit door to door, and that made their particular marketing much more feasible to the consumers. The only negative aspect of the migrants selling fish is that they kind of don't sell fresh fish. And that can be found even if you purchase a fish from the migrant, from North Indians. The fresh fish would always be found in the ports and the fish markets. And because they don't sell fresh fish, again, the cost of those fish will always be low. So basically, what happens is that fish consumer, who is not that much into, identifying a fish, and if they go by the color of the fish, which can be manipulated, then they do, fall prey to this particular kind of marketing where they purchase fish at a very lower rates. So these things had happened in the past 10 years, and now somehow, somewhere, consumers have been educated. Also, the marketing part from the online platform is also now much more visible in this particular sector. And the thing is that people tend, it's like a Zomato and Swiggy and Amazon, that culture is also now come into fishing industry as well. However, unlike these particular platforms, the online platform is not regulated, and that affects this. So this is basic the structure right now, the online platform and the migrants, going door to doors. Another aspect of the attractiveness that I've said is that there is no requirement of any registration or no government nod that you require if you want to venture into fishing industry. For example, say you reside near the coastline and you just feel like, early morning, take a hook or the net and you can, just venture into the coastline and you can just cast your net and whatever fish that you catch is yours for the reckoning and there's no tax levied on that. So it's very easy access where you can, generate a revenue for yourselves. So coastline fishing has it can any citizen of the country residing on the coast can do fishing if he is well versed with the fishing skills. The tendency of this business is that you tend to grow each passing day. People have started with coastline, then they've gone to small boats, and the small boats have multiplied into another small boats, and those boats have gone into bigger boats. And so, if you see that trend, which started in 1990s from the fish market, now has been diversified by these migrants into actual fishermen. Like they go into the deep seas and they actually catch those fish. They are now have turned into the boat owners. So there are a lot of North Indians have started their own boats and they are going into deep sea. So they have become fishermen right now because this industry's predominant requirement is a hard work and they are willing to go to that extent. Again, they are also not having that education factor with them. So this becomes much more easy way of earning revenues. And now they have their hold on this particular business in some way or the other.
The words construction work probably conjure in your mind workers standing on the scaffoldings of tall buildings or carrying heavy bricks at a construction site. But in reality, the nature of construction work is far more diverse than we actually think. Now, the construction sector in India employs a whopping 71 million workers of different types. Hello and welcome to L is for Labour, your source of information for all things labour.
Only on the migrationstory.com.
Yeah, so what role do the migrants play in Mumbai's fishing sector? What percentage of fishermen are migrants as of now?
The definition of migrant varies in this particular sector. Predominantly, fishing business is being carried out by the Kolis from the fishermen community. And over the period of time, the demography has changed with Adivasis coming into as a workforce labor. At the same time, people from interior Maharashtra, Marathwada, and even Western Maharashtra. And at the same time, people from north side like Bihar, UP, and even the northeast. So a lot of demographic change has taken place. And currently, the estimate that we have right now, and on average, is around 60 to 70% workforce right now in fishing sector is non-coolies. So according to your statement, it's like migrants, which hail from all over India, including Maharashtra.
But can't we say that Mumbai's Koli community, the future generation, the younger generation, the more educated generation, isn't really taking on this profession, and which is why there is a vacuum and the migrants are just coming in and filling in the vacuum that has been created by, your community?
The thing here is that we as a child, I'm also from the same community. We also had boats while growing up. Earnings at that time were huge. I mean, we have seen a lot of revenues coming into a house through this fish catches and fish sales. But over the period of time, that started declining. So when you have that particular benchmark where you have seen revenue generated at higher level getting declined rather, then obviously you start thinking. And again, since this revenue is not fixed, it varies. So for last 5 years, a lot of fishermen suffered immense because of low catch in the fish. However, this year, a lot of fishermen, around 90% fishermen have recovered their cost and have their seasons well placed right now. So they are comfortable from the revenue aspect, income aspect for this year. But since that uncertainty is there, a lot of thought goes into it. Also, at the same time, our community people are started getting educated, their children are getting educated. And I myself, my father, he's stressed on the education part. So obviously, when you get education and you see the other side of the fishing industry getting on a declining mode, as a individual, who wants to provide to his family, you always go for that particular field or employment where you have fixed a proper income, that can take care of your family. So it's a basic maths. It's not like rocket science thing. So when you see in front of your eyes decline is taking place, obviously you switch to whatever suits best to you. And that is what is happening in the current scenario of the fishing industry. During lockdown, this trend had changed for a year or two. Because what happened during lockdown, a lot of people lost their jobs. And also the factories were also shut down. So because of that, all the creeks which were polluted at that time also, they regenerated. They again came back to life. And people who lost their job were living at the coastline. They were getting a lot of fish from the coast and the creeks, and they were able to provide to their family in a multiple income that they could earn rather from the jobs.
What are the challenges that the fishing sector in Mumbai and Maharashtra faces? What are the various challenges?
This industry has been thriving only and only because of hard work of the fishermen. There have been a lot of challenges. The laws have been against fishermen. The costs have been increased. There were no subsidies given, no government intervention, and even the export incentives that the industries get, we don't get those export incentives as well. So even though there are so many detractions or hurdles, yet on the fishermen themselves, this industry has survived.
What can the government do to help the fishing community in general?
The thing is that first we have to acknowledge the problem. And unfortunately, that acknowledgement is not coming across. I'll give you a simple example. CMFRI does their stock analysis every year. And according to their report, the stocks are getting depleted. Whereas if you see the fisheries government report, the stock has remained even throughout the year. It has not gone down even a 1%, or it has gone up from a 1%. They are scared that if it goes down, they will be asked questions and they don't want that thing to happen. So you see, the acknowledgement is not coming from the ministry or the department. That has to come across. They have to be realistic, how they can improvise and bring in some modern technologies like this coral, how we can sustain and increase coral reefs, artificial coral reefs. Even the seaweed culture can be improvised. The coastline needs to be cleaned. The pollution that is happening in the creeks, that needs to be reduced, or it needs to be nullified. Once these things happen, I give you a word, it's my promise. The fishing industry will thrive and survive like it was before 90s. After the advent of MIDCs, the industrial zones in Konkan belt, the fishing industry started declining. Then there are infra projects. As a developing country, we cannot oppose infra projects. Our country needs them. That sacrifice we are willing to take. But if there are things that we can control, like, the pollution part, the chemicals that are getting released, if we control those aspects, we are, taking 80% issue out of this particular industry and giving a positive way of going forward. So thought process is not there. We have been shouting, we have been making noises. A lot of andolans, agitations have taken place, but unfortunately, the seriousness from the ministry and the department has never been. Even the budget that has been allocated for fishing industry, 80 to 90% of the budget goes only to the salaries of this department. So you can imagine, the thought process that is there with any government that occupies the position of the state.
Where do you see things going forward from here?
The thing here is that a lot of fishermen, they have their loans and they kind of unable to carry forward their business. So if you see the whole structure, the investors have started coming in, and the advent of technology and the mechanized vessels getting more and more in demand, the fishing is happening rampantly. There is no sustainability, or the fish stocks are not being given sufficient time to come across, and the stock getting again rejuvenated. It's very grim future for fishing industry, with more fishermen opting out of this business because of lack of fish, heavy investment, huge debts, loans which they are unable to repay. So all these factors are contributing immensely on the fishing sector. The only request to the government that we are pleading for last few years is to look into the basic aspects of how they can protect live fish stocks of the ocean, in the lines of the way things are happening in Australia, New Zealand, how they are taking care of the ocean and the fisheries. So they are allowing time for the fisheries to expand or the livestock to increase. So all these things needs to come into picture, which is not happening in the Indian sector.
Thanks, Mr. Devendra Tandel, for sharing your perspectives. We hope you found this episode informative. Do share your feedback in the comments section. Do you feel that the sustainability of fishing in Mumbai is impacted by the migrants entering this sector, or is this just a misplaced fear? Have you noticed any changes in your experience of buying or consuming fish that is related to migrants? This is the first in a two-part podcast series on migrants in the fishing community. The second part will explore the migrants who now dominate Mumbai's fishing sector.
Check out our website www.themigrationstory.com for more content. You can subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify. The audio editing and sound design is by Akshay Ramuhalli. Stay tuned for more stories on migration.
Hi, I'm Rodi Srivastava,
I'm Anuradha Nagraj.
and this is The Migration Story.